The audiovisual sector is constantly growing, especially thanks to new technologies that are improving every year. Nowadays, our life is practically overwhelmed by audiovisual content, and we, in turn, can hardly face our daily lives without it. The discipline of audiovisual translation has gained increasing importance over the years, but it began to be fundamental with the advent of sound film, when a new demand by the audience began to arise. Therefore, over the years, the audiovisual translation's development goes hand in hand with the technological development and is also helped by it. The idea of a dissertation thesis of this subject was encouraged by the Director of Studies Adriana Bisirri and came after a 2-week course at the City University of London, where mini-courses based on the MA in Audiovisual Translation and Popular Culture are held. Since it was a professional course, in 2 weeks we learned a lot of those fundamental aspects required to understand the methodology and the industry of audiovisual translation. The audiovisual translation, AVT, is made up of all the modalities of linguistic transfer. It aims at translating and adapting the original dialogues of audiovisual products in order to make them accessible to a wider audience. The audiovisual translation is part of our daily life, for it is the means by which hundreds of films, TV series, documentaries, and foreign television programs are made available on our screens. Over the last decades, the media's importance has grown exponentially, and so has the need for audiovisual translation. Academics in the audiovisual field like Gambier and Diaz-Sintas recognize up to 13 different methods of translating audiovisual programs, such as subtitling, dubbing, voiceover, live subtitles, SDH, subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, and audio description for accessibility. All these gather into 3 main groups: subtitling, dubbing, and voiceover. In my dissertation, I analyzed these 3 main groups, but the work focused more on the study of the subtitling practice, the historical perspective, the subtitling process, and the general guidelines for good subtitles. Although this discipline has been overlooked for years by scholars and academics, from the early 1990s it began to gain importance and visibility thanks to the proliferation and distribution of audiovisual materials. December 28, 1895. It is the day when the story of the film began, because on that day the world's first commercial of a screening film was presented at the Grand Caire in Paris. Between 1919 and 1930, the use of sound gradually began to establish itself. In 1927, The Jet Singer by Alan Crosland and produced by Warner Brothers was the first feature-length motion picture with synchronized dialogue, and with it, a new era began to start. Usually, the subtitling process requires 3 types of professionals: the subtitler, the translator, and technicians. Nowadays, this kind of work can be carried out by a single professional, thanks to software available on the internet such as Subtitle Workshop, Visual Sub-Sync, Subtitle Edit, etc. In this case, she serves as a translator, subtitler, and technician. The subtitling process includes the following main steps: spotting, so the localization of the in and out times of the subtitle, calculating the subtitle's minimum and maximum duration, translation from the original source text. Simulation, it is the representation of the translated subtitles along with the image and audio, correction of possible errors and/or text alignment. During the mini-course at the City University, I worked with SwiftAdapt by Software. It is a non-open source software used for the creation of subtitles, also for SDH and voiceover, and it is used by the most important subtitling companies. It has an intuitive interface and thus is easy to use. Furthermore, it is extremely safe concerning piracy, because the software itself can be copied, but its content works on a server base, so it can be reproduced, an important quality nowadays when piracy is an alarming matter. Lastly, I analyzed the European regulation on the matter and the audiovisual translation industry. The audiovisual sector in Europe took on a totally new phase at the end of the 1980s, when broadcasting industry developed due to cable and telecommunication satellites. However, national markets in the member states were too narrow to be able to offer at competitive rates the equipment and the programs required by the audience. European producers found themselves in condition of uneven competition in the international arena. The most important directive on the subject is Television Without Frontiers. It promotes cultural diversity, supporting national audiovisual production and circulation among the European countries. In December 2005, the European Commission submitted a proposal to revise the Television Without Frontiers Directive, now renamed as Audiovisual Media Service Directive. The audiovisual industry varies according to the national industry. National films and TV industry vary in size and in the type of product they produce. It's driven by exports, trade relationships, movements of people. It is determined by the size of the market it serves. Translation volumes and directionality in AVT are linked to export. The rapid development of new technologies has contributed to the increase in audiovisual products, and the digital era has simplified and sped up the work of the audiovisual translator. This has, in turn, led to new working practices, having an impact on the design of dedicated software, has facilitated the work of scholars researching in the audiovisual field, and has changed the perception of consumers of audiovisual products. The audiovisual field is growing so rapidly and continuously that it needs every day more professionals to be employed in different areas. In Italy, this sector provides job opportunities to thousands of people. As a consequence, today the need for various professionals, such as translators for the dubbing, voiceover and subtitling industry, subtitles for cinema and for the deaf and hard of hearing, multimedia translators, locutors, linguistic supervisors of audiovisual products, translator and subtitler for the video games and so on grows increasingly. That is the main concept that my dissertation, working in the audiovisual translation, wants to emphasize.